Oh, hello there. Welcome. Yes. I don't just read about music. I also read philosophy. This is a new bookazine put out by Philosophy Now, the magazine, the ultimate guide, and this is um, the first one. It's on ethics. And that's actually one of my favorite topics in philosophy. Yeah. But we're here to talk about music. First, let me say Happy New Year to everybody. This is the first video I'm filming in the new year, 2018. So cheers to everybody. I'm enjoying some Lapsang Souchong. Yes. Very good. All right. So you probably know that I go to Barnes and Noble all the time, mostly to either hang out or get some writing done, that sort of thing. And of course, I always check their bargain book section, in particular looking for music-related books. And I found a new one that that previously had not been there. So I was excited to pick this up for $8. Actually, less because I'm a member, so I saved 10% on it. But this is The Sun and the Moon and the Rolling Stones by Rich Cohen. Yes. Yeah, there's some pictures in there. Yeah. Anyway, glad to pick this up. I love the Rolling Stones, definitely one of my favorite bands. Don't have nearly enough of their music on any format, really. But alas, we're not here to talk about the Rolling Stones. We're not here to talk about books. We're here to talk about one of my absolute favorite artists. I'm pretty sure he is in my... In fact, I know he's in my top 10 artists. And until now, he's held a very, very slim spot in my collection. So I was pleased to add a couple more to my collection, but he could potentially even be in my top 5. I need to one day sit down and mentally tally the artists, my favorite artists. But I know there are some that have dropped out of the top 10, like Death Cab for Cutie. I still love them, but I probably wouldn't count them in my top 10 anymore. But there's other artists that I have adored since I was a teenager, or at least in my very early 20s. So, and this particular artist dates back to my teenage years. Yes. Absolutely wonderful. So this first one is the current one that I had in my collection. And I still think it's his best album. It's certainly his most approachable album. So we are talking about Tom Waits, and this is his debut album, Closing Time. I'm not seeing the... 1973. So this was definitely more a singer-songwriter, folk music, folk rock, that sort of thing. A very, very approachable album. And his voice is much more much more pleasing, you might say, to the general population. All right, so these two albums are way after that one. We're talking 29 and 31 years after that one, I want to say, if my math is correct. All right, so let's see. This one... Oh, yes. Okay, this one Um, my goodness. I was just randomly checking Tom Waits vinyl on Amazon, and this popped up at under $12. I was like, there's no way I'm passing up a Tom Waits album for under $12. So here it is. Blood Money from 2002, I believe. Yeah, 2002. This... Actually, I think my math was incorrect on the... We won't worry about that. Anyway, on the years. Anyway, this is his 19th album, as opposed to his first, which I just showed. And there has been a definite shift in his music style. He's at this point he's shifted almost entirely away from folk rock, a singer-songwriter. Although he still has what I consider to be singer-songwriter characteristics to his music, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Yes, but to add this to my collection, I mean, look at him. To add this to my collection for under $12, just unbelievable. I was so happy. Because it still, even having 3 of his albums now, he's a huge hole in my collection. Because, he has well over 20 albums. So, I have a ways to go. I have 3. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about this. So, at this point, he's, and you can kind of tell by the picture there, he's kind of full on into experimental rock. I kind of picture his music as like the soundtrack to a really demented movie. a demented psychedelic movie that just kind of leaves you with a sick feeling. And yet, describing it that way, you may be wondering, why is he one of your favorite artists? But I love that about him. He's one of the most original artists out there. And certainly I would be hard pressed to think of someone doing experimental rock that is more successful than him, or more appreciated. That's not quite the word I'm looking for, but you get the idea. This is great. Such a good album. Certainly, Closing Time, that'll always be my favorite. I mean, that's kind of one of the albums. It wasn't the album that got me into Tom Waits. I forget the album that got me into Tom Waits, but the first song I ever heard by Tom Waits was Cold Cold Ground. I think that's what it's called. But and at that point he was already into kind of his experimental mode. Anyway, so this one definitely experimental. He's full on into his gravelly and raspy voices. He does kind of alternate between those. In his more like his ballads, he tends to use more of the raspier voice, and then in the more upbeat or sometimes rocking. Although I don't know that on this particular album I would really consider anything rocking, but on the more upbeat numbers, he tends to do the more of the growl, and I can't even begin to emulate that. Wow. Let's see. It's hard to pick any songs on here just because they're all so good. But I do have to confess, I have a soft spot for his ballads. I do remember Coney Island Baby. That's a good one. I mean, they're all good. Yeah. I know The Part You Throw Away, that kind of stood out, as well as Whoa, actually. Those are just some of the ones that stood out, but I mean, you cannot go wrong with Tom Waits if you're into this sort of thing. First of all, I mean, you have to be willing to appreciate a singer that doesn't have your traditional skilled, educated singing voice. Yeah. Much in the vein of like, your Bob Dylan's, that sort of thing, where, they're not, I mean, I could be incorrect in this, but I wouldn't think that they're, trained singers, I'm sure it's something they just do or have done for a very long time, actually. All right, so that's a great album from 2002. Highly recommend it. But always with Tom Waits, you have to be you have to be open-minded and ready to go on a bit of a demented adventure. Before I forget, I want to give a huge shout out. I don't think he watches my channel, but I love his channel because he's a huge, he's probably a bigger Tom Waits fan than I am. Stripey Rambles. He has a fantastic channel, so be sure and check out his channel. Really, really good. And he's a bit of a character too, so he's a lot of fun to watch. So definitely check out his channel. He has some fantastic videos on Tom Waits. I think he is also a big Beatles fan. I'm pretty sure. I seem to remember him showing Beatles stuff. Yes. All right. So the next one, 2 albums later, and I didn't make a mental note of how many years later it was, and this has the modern copyright on it, but this was a few years after Blood Money. So it is Real Gone. This is his 21st album. And, all right, so now, let's see, what record label is this? This is on Anti. I think this one, is this one also Anti? Yeah, this is also Anti. Because it was around these years, right around 2002 and maybe a little bit after, he really developed a following among people that listen to heavier music. And I could be wrong because I'm not that familiar with the label, but I believe Anti puts out heavier music. I could be wrong. But nevertheless, around that period, he became very popular with fans of heavier music, and I think he even went to like festivals and that sort of thing, for heavier genres of music. So here we go, Real Gone. This is a double LP. This was from Barnes & Noble, and I was making use of my 20% off coupon plus my 10% membership discount. And I literally got this yesterday because it was the last possible day I could use the coupon. So I was like, I don't want those coupons to go to waste. I mean, I paid $25 for my membership. Yeah, so I wanted to make full use of my discount. So I used it on this, and I did compare the price to Amazon. I saved about, there was a $5 difference, and on Amazon it was actually sold out. So there you go. And there is a gatefold. I'm excited. You know. Has lyrics. That's a good thing, I guess. There's something about opening a gatefold and when it has just like a sprawling picture, you know? Yeah. So I mean, it's good that it has lyrics, but you know, they could put that on the inner sleeves. Anyway, so thrilled to get this one. Obviously, had to pay a little bit more for it, but I'm kind of putting my foot down. I need to really work on building my Tom Waits collection, and 2018 may be the year to do it. So now this album, as it compares to Blood Money, is definitely much more abrasive. Speaking of abrasive, my voice just went abrasive there. So cheers to you. My lukewarm tea. Yes, much more abrasive. You definitely have, you know, there's still moments where they're more ballads and perhaps similar to the music on Blood Money. But then you have some that are extremely abrasive, and as a result, I mean, there's no way in the world I would recommend this album to the average listener. I think at this point, you pretty much have to be a Tom Waits fan, unless you enjoy like aggressive, abrasive music. If you're not a Tom Waits fan and you enjoy those types of music, you'll probably like this. Yeah. A very good album. I think the songs on this album might be a little bit more diverse. Than on Blood Money. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But you still get, and I hate it when they put the song titles like every which way. It's hard to figure out what's what and who's who. So let's just take it out. Plus, you know, there's the inner sleeves, which I failed to show on the other one. I'll have to be sure and pop those out, but I do want to... are you kidding me? It doesn't have the song titles on the... Oh, man. It has the side numbers, but it doesn't have the song titles on the inner sleeve, so that's no help to me. And the other one does, actually. Okay, so I think that's... Yeah, okay. We have the song titles. Sorry, thank goodness. My goodness. Let's see here. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I listened to this. I did give myself a slight refresher. It's interesting. I'm just noticing, and I feel foolish for not being more educated about this. But on guitar, And also on banjo, on other songs, is Mark Ribot, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It looks like Rebot, but I believe it's Ribot. I could be wrong. Um, if memory serves, he was at one point a member of one of my favorite bands, the Lounge Lizards. So there's a connection there. That's interesting. Also worth noting on here is Tom Waits' son, Casey Waits, appears on a few tracks, and or several tracks actually. In this, the opening track, he's doing the turntables. So, and then on others, he's doing percussion or drums. So it appears that's his thing. So that's interesting. And then also on a couple tracks, Les Claypool is on bass. So this album just gets better and better. Anyway, so now I did mention that this album is abrasive and aggressive, but you know there are moments, and again I mentioned that I have a soft spot for Tom Waits' ballads or his more down tempo songs. So as far as that goes, you have songs like I want to say how's it gonna end was one of them. Dead and Lovely, that's a good one there. And then Day After Tomorrow, and that one actually, if his if his voice was cleaned up a little bit, that song would be right off of Closing Time. It definitely harkens back to that, those early days where he was more of a singer-songwriter, folk rock guy, which is nice to hear, because it was a good sound for him, actually, a really good sound. So it's good to hear him go back to that at least a little bit, yeah. Now, as far as the aggressive songs, there's some really good ones on here, but two in particular. Let's see. A really aggressive one that might turn off some people would be, I think, "Baby Gonna Leave Me." That one's pretty intense as far as Tom Waits goes. But my favorite, and possibly my favorite song on the album, or certainly up there, would be "Make It Rain." Again, it's a more aggressive one, or abrasive, whatever you might call it. But it's really, really good. I mean, you can't go wrong with either of these albums, actually. So, and we have the Red theme going on. So, I would highly recommend either of these albums if you're open to music outside of what you would hear on the radio. If you're open to people expressing themselves with non-mainstream voices, because I mean he even goes well beyond Bob Dylan. People make fun of Bob Dylan's voice, but Tom Waits is an extreme. So, you definitely have to be open to that sort of thing. Listening to Tom Waits, it certainly helps to be open-minded. One of the things that I really, really love about his music is he's a storyteller. He really is. You know, his stories usually are pretty dark, but they tell a story. It's not, you know, he's not really looking for that hook that, you know, people are going to be singing in their head or even out loud or in their shower or something. You know, he's here to tell a story, and it's a story no one else is telling. So bravo to Tom Waits. One, not really a criticism. It's more of an observation. Frequently in Tom Waits' music, the songs are based around a very simple rhythm, something like boom chick boom chick boom chick boom chick boom chick boom chick boom chick, and I don't know, you know, it's something you notice, or at least I notice, and I don't know, perhaps it works out that way because it's easier. His music is so story based. Maybe it's easier to tell a story along that sort of rhythm. Just really an observation. But yeah, you definitely get that boom chick boom chick boom chick boom chick, and seriously, it's in probably, I would say, 2/3 of the songs. Not only on this one, but definitely also on Blood Money, and it may even go. It may even go further back. Maybe even on Closing Time. I'll have to listen to Closing Time again. But yeah, that's just a little observation. I want to say his most recent album was 2011. So I'll have to check that one out. I know I haven't heard that one. I probably haven't even heard the one right before that. So yeah, at one point I had all of his albums. Now this was in, you know, what, the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there. I had all of his albums to that point on CD. And you know, there was I've mentioned it before, but the big crash where you know, I dumped all my CDs after copying them to my computer, and then, you know, I paid back in karma and my hard drive crashed. So, you know, anyway, there you go. Sorry it was a long video, but you know what? I love Tom Waits. He deserves it. Hopefully you're willing to give him a chance. If you want something unusual and something that not everybody is going to listen to, definitely Tom Waits. He's about the best you can get in that area. That's his expertise. So yeah. Again, Happy New Year to everybody, and I look forward to doing many more videos this year. We'll see how it works out with, you know, my new full-time job. So previously I had tons of time on my hands. I was working part-time, so but I have more money to spend on music. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.